Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Yo, what's good, people? This is Trackstar, the DJ of Run the Jewels, and you're listening to the homies over at Zero Dark Nerdy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast.
The filthiest of the filthy.
This is your boy Brian, a.k.a. El Nino, and today I'm joined with...
Your casual genius, Mateo.
And it's Jadon, a.k.a. He Who Entertains, a.k.a. the Trivia King of Greensboro.
Get him.
Ryan Saber, Captain Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Cleveland baseball team, CLE, till I die.
All right, today's episode, we're going to be talking about Loki. Just wrapped up 6 episodes, correct?
Six.
Yes. Glorious episodes. Jadon and Matthew have not been in the studio for a little bit, so we're going to let these gentlemen kick it off. Jerry, why don't you go ahead and start off?
I mean, I compared it to the other two Marvel shows that are out. It blew both of them away. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking WandaVision is a close second. Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty grounded. It was really cool, but it was, not nearly as crazy as what we got in this show.
Right.
It's just amazing. You take a tiny little scene from Avengers Endgame, and then you build an entire show around one character that we already love. We already fell in love with this character. He's come back. He's died. He's come back again, and now it's like a time traveling adventure with Loki. It's like Doctor Who in the Marvel universe is what they're trying to do, I guess.
There you go. So
it was amazing.
So that's your ranking right now is Loki 1,
perfect.
WandaVision. So we have to do all that.
I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was better than the other two.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I kind of like WandaVision better. It's personal preference. Like the Lovecraft people.
There was a lot of Lovecraft people.
There's a lot of Lovecraft people. I was thinking, oh, I saw this already, kind of.
Gotcha.
And they canceled that. So
well, this ain't going to get canceled.
And the whole Kang thing, I thought, we spoke about that. It's actually, in the comic, is 2 different people.
Uh-huh.
He, the one who remains, and Kang are 2 different people. But
yeah,
it's also a good thing that they did it this way.
Right.
I appreciate it that way. It just eliminates that whole thing.
So can I ask by 2 different people, what do you mean by that?
2 different characters.
Immortus.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, in the comics, He Who Remains is not a Kang variant or anything.
All right.
He's just the last TVA agent.
Okay.
But I liked what they did. They combined the 2.
Okay.
He's just another version of Kang.
Yeah, it's semantics. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't as entertained as I thought I would be by Jonathan Majors. Man, I might be in the minority on that. Ooh.
Yeah, probably.
It was silly. It was silly.
It was silliness. Yeah.
It was a little, like you said, Willy Wonka-ish.
Yeah, he was. It's his last, Willy Wonka. It was Willy Wonka. He was giving the keys to the factory away.
I think
trying to.
We were expecting to get like a Wizard of Oz type, like the man behind the curtain, but it was more Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that they did it that way, and I'll save more thoughts.
No, but yeah, in the aftermath of it all, it makes sense because, going forward, he is going to be a badass, as he should be, and it would lead to all type of other things, and he's going to be in the Ant-Man and Wasp.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be able to put him in anything they want.
Yeah.
Because he's had so many iterations, and I mean he's 6 or 7 different
variants.
different names, but the same guy.
Now, in terms of, for a lot of our listeners out there that may not know much about Kang the Conqueror, as far as superpowers, things like that, is it pretty much just time travel? Does he have actual superpowers? Like, what does that look like?
He doesn't have powers per se, but he is a descendant of Reed Richards, or his name is Nathaniel Richards, and he was from the 31st century, and he got bored with what he was doing, and he found a time machine built by Dr. Doom and took it back in time. And the first thing he did was he created a persona called Rama Tut. Okay. And he,
the Pharaoh.
He took over Egypt, but then the Fantastic Four went back in time and stopped him.
Was the first iteration.
There is speculation, though,
that the MCU version's actually going to be a descendant of Tony Stark versus Reed Richards, because the Fantastic Four isn't getting introduced until the end of Phase 4, and technically Tony did discover time travel, and so there's some speculation there, which just kind of saying it even gives me the little feels, I guess. So that's interesting. But anyway,
well, that ties into Iron Lad, right?
Well, that's another thing. But like I was going to say, even his little time twister,
is like the GPS,
right? It looks just. It's similar to what Tony created for Endgame.
Gotcha.
For them. But getting back to Iron Lad, like Kang has been a bunch of different people. His Kang the Conqueror, who we know as Kang the Conqueror, went back in time to give his younger self some advice to get him going on that path. And so he decided not to do that, and he became Iron Lad instead. He modeled his armor after Tony Stark, and he was a good guy. But then this was fairly new. They did this, but it all involved the Young Avengers. So they're setting up Young Avengers for sure, and a variant of Kang could be Iron Lad on that team, because all the other characters are popped up, or they're going to pop up in other series.
Anything else?
Did I answer your question?
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, no.
Just want to provide some insight out there for
I was entertained.
Yeah,
I was entertained. I was lost sometimes, and sometimes I was just looking at the bigger picture, like, yo, Loki just fell in love with himself, and
which we would expect him to do. If anyone's going to be,
like,
that's going to be Loki.
Which was cool. Alligator Loki was great.
Oh, it was great. Mm-hmm.
The old man Loki was cool too. He's dressed like Kermit.
I love Richard E. Grant as classic Loki. Yeah. It was so cool. The first time I saw that costume, it looks cool, but it kind of looked like kind of cosplay-ish.
Yeah.
But I mean,
like felt.
It goes along with the aesthetic of the old comics,
the
old
gigantic horns.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
So
and
cool.
what was the giant cloud thing?
Goliath.
Yes, that was pretty rad.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. If I had, so so what's your ranking then? As far as right now, it's going to be WandaVision, and so where's your ranking?
Yeah, WandaVision, Loki, close second.
Okay,
and then way down the line, Winter Soldier, Falcon, and Winter Soldier.
All right, I like it.
I would recommend everybody. There is a person I follow on Twitter. His name is Dragonfly Jones.
I love that name.
And he does a podcast on Colin Cowherd's new platform or whatever, and he gave. It's not politically correct for me to say the name that he gave to Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I would encourage everybody to go on Twitter and search Dragonfly Jones and look at a tweet from the last 2 or 3 days and see. And he calls Winter Soldier RoboCop arm, and he calls Falcon something else, but I'll let you guys do the search. Very funny.
RoboCop arm.
I can go ahead and say the performances I thought were really, really good. Owen Wilson, I thought, was fantastic as Mobius.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's what
that was good.
See, alley-oop. He brings it home. He brings it home on that one. I was expecting that. I was like, someone better do the wow.
I love Owen Wilson.
That is you got to clip that out.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, we really haven't seen him in a while either. So this was like a kind of refreshing look at Owen Wilson doing this character. And, the whole jet ski thing. I'm glad that and of course, as always, spoilers ahead. You know us. We've been doing this for almost 4 years now. Always spoilers ahead. Talking about jet skis the entire time. And then when he goes, maybe in a past life I had a jet ski. And then that's when he got pruned. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, God.
They plucked him from the 90s right off a damn jet ski, He was supposed to crash and didn't, and then they were just like, all right, you're coming with us.
To me, I would think of it more as like a Wedding Crashers Owen Wilson that they plucked out of there. And then Vince Vaughn somewhere in the background. But great performance by Sophia Di Martino as Sylvie. Just like Jadon mentioned, Richard E. Grant, classic Loki, I thought stole the show, especially against their war against Goliath.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And then Tara Strong. Big shout out Tara Strong. Yeah. We don't physically see her, but the smoke show herself, Miss Minutes, was fantastic. And then that whole kind of twist at the end, because she's known what's been going on this entire time.
She's like the Jarvis to Kang.
Right.
Basically.
Exactly. And then, Jonathan Majors, I did like him. I wasn't like, just like Matthew said, I wasn't completely, I did get more of a Willy Wonka vibe for sure. The jokester, the prankster, but he is kind of a jokester and prankster in some of the comic books I've seen. So I can see that segue, and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, he didn't blow me away from that. Most importantly, to me, this is what leads right into the multiverse. I think that's the most important takeaway from the Loki series is everybody's like, oh, well, how is this going to happen? Now we know how it's going to happen, and it literally just happened. So, the ending with, Mobius being like, who are you? What's your name? Not recognizing, especially after their brotherhood bond that they had for all those
so
episodes.
Tight a minute ago.
Then just gone from the memory. So that's my rating on it. If I had to grade the 3 MCU shows so far, I would probably have to go WandaVision first, especially for nostalgia reasons. Loki second, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier. I wouldn't say as far as Matthew said, but to me, what I really loved about Falcon and Winter Soldier is it dealt with more of the aftermath of what happened after the blip, with people being dislocated, displaced, because, obviously with Spider-Man Far From Home, they kind of just looked over that. It was like, these kids are back in high school again. Right.
Or even Aunt May, like, I came back and somebody was in my apartment.
Right.
How funny is that?
Right. And it dealt with more of the issues which would have happened. And that was one of the biggest things with the whole thing happening. It's like, oh my God, insurance companies losing their mind, people being displaced, their homes, they're gone 5 years. I think if you're missing, you're declared dead after what, like a year or something like that? So
don't know, but they probably
So that's what I liked about it. And I still
didn't
thought
think
it was
they
a
were
good
coming
show.
back.
No, nobody does. 5 years, that's forever. So that's my kind of and then we'll go over grades here in a little bit, but that's my ranking as far as 1, 2, 3 so far. And at the end of the day, there are still 3 solid hits.
Oh yeah.
In my opinion. I really liked all 3. So
I'm going to talk a little bit about Tom Hiddleston. I think that none of us have talked about Tom Hiddleston yet. We've been going for a while. I'm not sure that there's a better actor in the MCU, a more versatile actor. He does the drama component of it. He does sort of the physical comedy acting. He's likable. He's despicable. He's Loki. And I don't know if a character in the MCU, maybe Tony Stark, but outside of that has made a bigger transformation from sort of who they were. Obviously Tony was self-absorbed, arrogant, and at the end he makes the ultimate sacrifice over this 10-year journey. I think Loki, in a very similar way, he made the ultimate sacrifice at the end. He could have had it all. He could have had the Infinity Stones. He could have had the gauntlet.
the paperweights, you mean?
He could have. Well, no, I'll get back to that in a minute. He could have basically ruled everything, and he made the ultimate sacrifice, love, to do in his mind what he thought was the right thing. So if you kind of think about character progression and the way that it's happened, I think that the Loki character has progressed very similarly to the way that the Tony Stark character did. I think Tom Hiddleston is a phenomenal actor. I think he gets very sort of underrated in this whole thing at the end because of the Jonathan Majors.
There we go.
Pop.
Yeah.
The Jonathan Majors reveal in episode 6. I think episode 5 was some of the best stuff that Marvel has ever done, with all the Loki variants and
Easter eggs for
just
days.
All
the
over
Easter
the place.
eggs for days. Just basically Loki and Sylvie, who is a Loki that doesn't want to be called a Loki because she's sort of her own thing, coming to really save the day. Now, let's get into Jonathan Majors and his performance and my overall thoughts on King. I think one thing that's really important is, and we've talked about this all the time, I am not a comic book nerd. I didn't read comics as a kid. I collected the comic book baseball cards. You remember when they had
I've got those.
So I did, and that's sort of what got me into it. And then obviously the MCU and some of the Saturday morning, the animated series and things like that. But so my perception of all of this is, it really comes from a place of, I'm sort of an aficionado of the MCU itself and not necessarily of comics. So I will say that I thought Jonathan Majors was phenomenal. Like I thought he was so good in that little 20 or 25 minute span that I actually want to go back and watch Lovecraft Country. I went and watched some interviews that he had with Jimmy Fallon this week, and just to see, you know, kind of who he is and how he is. I think he is a phenomenal actor. I think he played the version of Kang that's been sitting in isolation for millions of years, that is now just a little wily and crazy, and you know, and he played it to a T. So I'm very excited about Jonathan Majors, what he brings to the MCU. And I think something that can't be overlooked is Kang is terrifying. He's so terrifying that he is afraid of himself. He did everything he did because he was so afraid of himself and what other versions of himself can do. And to put it in perspective of how powerful Kang actually is, you talk about if he has like superhero powers and all that. Think about what Thanos had to do to get the Infinity Stones. Kang could have just given them to Loki like that.
Yeah.
Wiped out Thanos, put Loki in charge, Sylvie in charge. This dude is so powerful that the greatest threat that we've ever seen in comic book cinematic universe is an ant that he just steps on with his boot. So I am, I'm excited about what this brings. I'm excited about all the potential that we see with the multiverse. You know, I'm not super excited about how scary that Elizabeth Olsen has said that
Doctor Strange
is, because I don't.
We know you don't like scary movies.
I don't like scary, but it's to the point now where it's like it goes beyond Marvel don't miss. Like Marvel they're doing everything so well that nothing else even really matters. Like nothing will ever. This is like the golden age for us. Yeah. Like we're going to think back on this 20, 30, 40 years from now. There's going to be a 10 or there's already been 10, but like a 25-year period of cinematic history. Because eventually, like all things, this will sort of fizzle out and, you know, it'll be tough. But there's going to be a period that we all look back on and we were just like, man, like we think about the year between Infinity War and Endgame. Like there's going to be more of those. You know, and it's like
you're just jonesing the entire year,
and they're doing
that dynasty.
They're doing it so much better now than they were even 4 or 5 years ago. That the best is ahead of us, and you know you have all these different characters that are coming. You talked about the laying the groundwork for the Young Avengers that the normal kind of everyday fan doesn't even know some of these characters that have been introduced, like the Falcon's replacement, like the Patriot,
Eli Bradley.
You know what I mean? Like there's all these characters that are now being peppered.
Billy and Tommy.
Yeah, being peppered and sprinkled around. So it's like, man, like we're in for some fucking shit. Like the Eternals, is going to be fucking amazing. Spider-Man's going to be amazing. Everything. We're going to get.
What's next? Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi's next. That's going to be amazing. So anyway, how do I rank it? Loki, I think, is some of the best stuff that Marvel's done. But what I would say is I would put it actually equal. I would tie it with WandaVision.
Okay.
And let me say why. WandaVision was so different, especially the first 4 or 5 episodes. You know, towards the end, it started to kind of come back into kind of the MCU, but it was so different those first 4 or 5 episodes that you were watching something that you've never seen before, and it was just mind blowing. And we hadn't had anything for a long time, so sort of the emotional attachment of the way I felt when I was watching Wanda, you can't replace that. Falcon Winter Soldier was just more straight traditional.
Right.
It was a movie. It was a Marvel movie that they split up in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Loki was a little bit of a combination of the two, right? A little bit more traditional Marvel stuff, but they were doing some things that they've never done before. There's actual acting chops that are being displayed in the show. You know, in a way that in a lot of the Marvel properties, acting doesn't really matter because the story and the content drives the production value of it so much. Tom Hiddleston was great. One person we haven't even talked about, and I would murder her name if I even tried to say it, but Ravonna Renslayer, like she's got a whole fucking thing going on there where, you know, in the comics she's got a relationship with Kang, like she's so mysterious, like she's gonna be some kind of a bad person turned good at some point, I think, as well. So,
and this was a judge, correct?
Yes, Judge Renslayer from Fremont, Ohio. Everything comes back to Ohio.
I knew
Black
you were
Widow
try to
started
plug
in
something
Ohio.
in.
I mean, it just everything comes back to Ohio. Charles Woodson went to Fremont Ross, by the way. So anyway. So I would put them equal. Look, I really like Falcon Winter Soldier, but it just doesn't even stack up to what these two are. So I don't know. I'm really excited for what we have in store for the future, and I'm really excited about everything that the precision and the thoughtfulness with which Kevin Feige and really that whole group are really kind of, they're just laying the groundwork, peppering things in. We're gonna go back 10 years from now. We'll come back. We'll watch this. There'll be things in there that we, you know, major characters that like Eli Bradley, like, you know, some of these other folks that it's just gonna be really important. So. I loved it.
What were some of your favorite moments from the full series?
Good question. I loved when all the Lokis were battling each other
in the little bowling alley.
Kid Loki's lair or whatever the hell it was. So
did you notice his throne was like a Santa?
Yep. Candy canes and shit around it. You know what you expect from a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of my favorites, and everything leading up to that as well, you know, because that's when we saw the Thanos copter, and then you go down and you see everything, and then who was it in the little jar?
That was Throg.
Yeah, the frog.
That was Thor turned into a frog trying to get Mjolnir.
All right.
there. Right?
Okay, I was wondering because that was the one thing I was like, shit, I missed that, and I was trying to go back and like do some research, so that was the only thing I didn't do research on.
And they said Chris Hemsworth actually voiced it.
I could totally hear it when I saw it because he's like, and you could. It was totally him.
But yeah, that was definitely by far one of my favorite.
I would say my favorite part was, you know, you go through this whole mind fuck and really trying to wrap your mind around this multiverse and what it means and how it's going to work. And, you know, the rules of time travel are different in the MCU than they are in sort of the traditional a la Endgame when they talked about it, you know, so it's not like Back to the Future. But, you know, when Sylvie stabs Kang and he just kind of looks at her and goes, see you soon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even saying it right now just kind of gives me like, this motherfucker is like, he's going to be around for a minute, and in you know, no
matter what happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, like no matter what happens, he's going to be along for
he's so
long
bad
time.
That they may somehow bring back Thanos to like help them fight him.
Well,
you know, like that's a
it happens
potential.
in the comics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like this dude is.
And then they showed the timeline rippling.
Yes.
Right after that was very cool.
You know, with that little grin on his face. See you soon.
I had told you. I just finished telling you.
I loved my favorite moment was like you mentioned earlier, but all those Easter eggs in episode 5.
Yeah.
Holy shit. The title of the episode, even Journey into Mystery, that's the first comic. Journey into Mystery 83 was the first appearance of Thor.
Okay.
And then Journey into Mystery 85 was the first appearance of Loki. And so that was the name of the episode.
Nice.
And then, God, it was littered. You saw Ronan's ship crashed.
Yep.
You saw the giant Yellow Jacket helmet.
Yep.
The Thanos copter from Spidey Super Stories 89.
Damn. And then that shows back up again in Thanos and Deadpool. Too,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
Yeah.
No, he's totally making fun of him.
Oh, yeah.
For having the Thanos copter.
Yeah.
But you saw Throg. You saw Red Skull's little missile ship from Captain America First Avenger.
Yep.
You saw Kang Tower instead of Avengers Tower.
Yeah. Right.
Kang, spelled Qeng, is a corporation by Kang, like that's Kang's future corporation. You saw Ecto. You saw Kid Loki drinking that Ecto cooler.
Oh yes.
And hold on, earlier when they were in the cafeteria, Mobius was drinking Shasta.
Yeah.
Yep.
They still
I
serve
remember
that in
that.
hospitals.
It had.
That was the Coca-Cola, like no, not Shasta.
But it's like it's got ginseng. Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
What else? The Polybius video game cabinet.
Yes.
That was a big thing. It was said to be a mind control video game put out by the Pentagon. That was in Kid Loki's little lair. The USS Eldridge. That's the whole Philadelphia experiment where they tried to. It was said that they were making a cloaking device for a battleship, and that's where the battleship popped in.
Oh no shit. Okay.
So it disappeared.
Yeah.
And then there was a crashed Hydra helicarrier from Captain America Winter Soldier. It even had the red Hydra logo on it. It was dope. Like that was my favorite part. Just I was like, oh my god, there's something. Oh god, oh god, oh god, look at that. Oh god.
I gotta rewind. How long did it take you to watch that episode? I just need to know.
Oh, I watched it. Well, not
Or how
long,
many
but I
times
watched
did you
it like
rewatch it?
5 times.
All right, that's what I meant to say.
I watched a couple videos
Yeah.
afterwards that kind of broke down with Jerry. So that's why I'm sitting here going, yep, because I watched somebody else tell me.
God, it was amazing. Oh, and the statue of the Living Tribunal's head I saw.
Okay.
So we may see that.
I really liked Sylvie.
She was great.
She was great. I actually went into it thinking that I wouldn't.
Yes, same.
Yeah. Because like I don't know. There's been a lot of backlash ever since like Black Widow, and they're putting all these women in certain roles, and it's stupid.
It is so dumb. I remember seeing that in Endgame when it was like, oh, then we got to have all the girls team up. It's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I thought it was rad.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. But then, all of that coming from Black Widow and then into Sylvie. But she was great, like really, really great. And the whole thing about him falling in love with himself. I got to go back to that. Like it makes all the sense in the world. It makes me happy. And she's great. She didn't listen at the end, though.
No, she didn't.
Well, she was determined.
Oh, yeah. That was her agenda.
Years-long plan to take out whoever was at the top.
Women be shopping.
Women shopping.
Is there anything you didn't like?
I already said Willy Wonka was too Willy Wonka for me. But
I didn't like that the whole thing, the whole plot point where Sylvie sent all those pruning bombs or whatever everywhere.
Yeah.
They dealt with that pretty quickly.
Real quick.
Like we never saw them even deal with any of it.
No.
So I didn't like that. And then the crappy mid-credit scene.
Yeah, I would say that would be the one thing that I didn't like. That there was no mid-credit scene for the last episode to tie it to either Shang-Chi or maybe Multiverse of Madness or Spider-Man or something.
Right.
Right? Like there was, all they did was the, see you in season 2 stamp thing. So I was a little disappointed with that. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I was disappointed with it. And then I started reading up on, there was a completely different way the last episode was going to go. Like Kang was just going to be the post-credit scene.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was going to be them against
I'm glad they didn't do
Loki.
that.
And they could possibly do a whole thing because, they redid the end credit scene to WandaVision showing what looks like Doctor Strange coming
Floating
down. So
down.
they
They're
could possibly, in a couple months from now, come down and redo the whole thing.
Well,
I mean, it is
hopefully.
multiverse, so you never know.
But it was going to be like them against another Loki. Like a Loki was in charge, or still a proxy for Kang, but it was another Loki. But they just killed that and decided to bring Jonathan Majors in. And a lot of that happened because of COVID, because they shot some of it and they had to stop. And then at that point they were like, man, we should do this. It would be way cooler. And then they did that.
Gotcha.
But I think that's why we got such a crappy mid-credit scene, because it was going to be awesome. And then they were like, fuck it. Let's just put him in. And this is unprecedented.
I'm glad they did it that way.
They debuted a giant level villain in a TV show.
Yeah. Yep.
That's going to be around for a while. So they've got some real faith in Disney Plus.
Oh, they do. They do. So speaking of which, and I think this is a great segue for it, the What If series coming out next. I believe it's
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Middle of August, beginning of August.
Your boy's got
Somewhere in there.
most of the What If comics.
I know.
I don't have all of them, but I've got most of them. I've
think
loved
it's the
those.
11th.
I've loved those since I was a kid.
You know, this is Chadwick Boseman's last performance
Yep.
as T'Challa.
Yeah, it's August the 11th, so it's
And it's 10 episodes.
3 weeks from
that tells me they're going to be short, though. If there's 10 episodes, they're not going to be super like 40
Right.
minutes. Or
Right.
nothing.
I'd say probably 30 minutes apiece. And, you know, for those of you out there that may not have seen the previews, I don't know what you got going on. I mean, there's everything from T'Challa really being Star-Lord, Killmonger being Black Panther pretty much.
Rescuing Tony Stark at the beginning of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Right. Thor being humble by himself, not getting Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
Meow meow.
yeah.
It's meow meow.
It's meow meow.
You know, not having that taken away from him and actually being humble on his own. Miss Carter, who ends up, you know, not Miss Britain, but Miss Carter.
Captain Carter.
Captain Carter, that's it. And a
there
few
for
other
that.
stories in there. So
There's one where Steve Rogers is Spider-Man.
Yes. That one.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter.
All right.
There's one where Steve Rogers is Spider-Man.
Shit. I mean, hey, anything's possible. So of those stories coming out next month, and they already said flat out, like, this is going to be a direct result from the whole multiverse thing happening. Now, how they tie into the movies moving forward, we don't know. Is there a particular story that you guys are looking forward to in the What If series? And if not, just from you, based on the comics that you have, which one would you like to see?
Ooh. Well, what am I looking forward to seeing? T'Challa Star-Lord is going to be amazing. A whole different take. I like the part in the trailer where it had the iconic shot of the Avengers, and then it changed into like Thor and the Guardians.
Yeah.
So I think that they might come together instead in that episode. That's something I'm really looking forward to. And then
Like the Asgardians.
yeah. The
Which is going to
Asgardians
be
of
a
the
thing
Galaxy.
anyway.
Yeah. And then the Marvel Zombies. I can't wait to see that.
Oh, God.
That's going to be
I
really
can't
good.
wait.
I'm into all of it, you know, and that's sort of a cop-out, but I mean, at this point, like...
It's almost like you can't go
Marvel
wrong.
could say,
Right.
we're putting out a box of dog shit. Everybody, I'd be like, yo, let me pre-order my tickets. You know, so, I mean, they have me in the same way that they have almost everybody at this point, where it's like, there's just so much faith that not only is it going to be entertaining, but it's also going to be good. And somehow it's going to tie back to the larger story. It sounds like some of this stuff may actually be canon, right? Where it's actually going to tie back to the storyline. So, I mean, at this point, they're hitting on all cylinders. So I'll give a bullshit answer and say all of it, but it's the truth.
I got to go with Marvel Zombies. I'm fucking hella excited about it. One of my favorite series. I've now crossed over to the Deceased series. Big fan of that for our DC fans out there. It's very similar to Marvel Zombies, but different storylines, different variations. And what I love about the Deceased covers is that they're based on other horror movie posters. So it's a nice take on it, but I've always been a fan of the Marvel Zombies. I have Army of Darkness versus Marvel Zombies, and I think it's Ash versus.
Yeah.
There's so many of them, but I'm really looking forward to that.
Deceased is really, really good.
Yeah.
I want to see when they slot that in, because it's supposed to be a variation of each movie. Like,
Right.
where the hell is that going to show?
Right.
Like when people are snapped back? I don't know. Like, but it looked like when the zombie Cap was fighting Bucky with his Wakandan arm.
Yeah.
So it's got to be after Endgame.
Yeah.
Or
think so.
Infinity War, rather.
I want to see the Tony and Killmonger.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me.
Yeah.
It's completely different. I'm really excited to get back and hear Chadwick
Yeah.
in his role.
Same. And I mean, this will be the last time we hear him.
Yeah.
I mean, besides obviously rewatching stuff, but his last performance, I did not know that until they announced it a couple weeks ago. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where
We miss you, Chadwick.
Yeah.
By the way, we lost a hip hop legend this past weekend.
Biz.
R.I.P. to Biz Marquee. So
yeah.
not been a good year so far as DMX and Shock G. We've lost some hip hop legends.
Gift
but-
of gab.
Yeah. So on a lighter note, we love you. We love all of you. We want to make sure you're doing all right. Make sure you, like, subscribe, comment, follow everywhere across the board. We're on all social media aspects. Be sure to check out the website, popculturepodcast.com. and hit the contact us form. Let us know what you want to hear, what you enjoy, what you don't like. We're always trying to progress, get better, make sure that we're entertaining you. And of course, big thanks to our friends over at Zibster for the website. That is ZIBSTER.com. And on behalf of everybody here at Zero Dark Nerdy, we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Bye.
Yeah! Victory!
And anger management?
Fuck anger management.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. So start your free trial of Sirius XM today. Visit SiriusXM.com/believe.